I'm Dayney. One of the most curious things about modern American life is that one word can mean several different things, such as the word fast means something completely different to my wife and I, especially when we're on our jet ski. The word far can mean something completely different to somebody who lives in rural America and drives 30 minutes just to get groceries versus a city dweller who takes Uber down the block for just about anything. One of those words that I've really struggled with, what is the meaning of that word, is gardening. People make such a big deal out of it. Is it a sport? Is it a hobby? Is it a religion? I don't know. So I pondered that question. I set out on my quest to learn about gardening when my wife and I moved from a suburban condo, from a condo in downtown Chicago to a suburban property in the suburbs. I finally had a little patch of dirt to experiment around with what is the meaning of gardening. I started this great journey at a trailhead called Home Depot. There, I met a wise old trail guide who instructed me on the critical equipment that I would need for this great endeavor. He instructed me to buy shovel, hoe, rake, fertilizer, manure, weed killer, and the all-important seeds. I took this equipment back home with me and I mixed it all into the soil, and I really worked the soil, and with the hoe and the shovel. I had chosen a spot behind the garage in the direct sun, and the ground was very hard and full of weeds. I chose that spot in the direct sun because when you drive around the states of Indiana, Illinois, or Iowa, you'll see corn 6 feet tall in direct sunlight everywhere you look. My corn was going to be like that. So I continued working the soil, and I realized it was a very rigorous endeavor. And then I planted the all-important seeds in 3 rows of corn, tomatoes, and carrots. And then I watered, and I waited. I waited, and I watered. And I waited some more. At this point, I realized gardening was more than just a rigorous sport. It was a way of life. So I waited all summer, and absolutely nothing grew. Not even the weeds. Zippo, nothing. I was devastated. Oh my gosh, what had I done wrong? Was my potent solution of manure and fertilizer and weed killer not strong enough? Was it improper use of the hoe or the shovel? Were my seeds defective? I really struggled. Luckily, that autumn, my wife and I brought home a little baby girl into our home. This changed me. Suddenly, I had a whole new sport. It was called diapers, bottles, rocking, burping. It was a whole new way of life called parenting that I had discovered. Life moved on, and eventually my family and I moved to Henderson, Nevada. But we never forgot the lessons from gardening back in the Midwest. That lesson being to interact with the earth as much as possible. The desert was right behind our house, and we went on many long walks. And every time we went on a walk, we decided to interact with the earth by picking up lots of rocks and minerals, and sometimes we'd even find crystals. So we went on hundreds of walks, really, back in those days, for 4 years, every weekend, and oftentimes during the week. And every time we would collect rocks. Sometimes we would bring back 20 or 30 pounds of extra rocks in our packs. It was a very strenuous exercise. It was a labor of love, just like gardening had been. We came home and we would put the rocks in a special corner in our yard. And over the years, the collection increased to quite a large collection. And I looked at the collection of beautiful rocks and gems and minerals, and I realized at that point I had my garden. It was a rock garden. And it brought us a lot of joy. It was a wonderful harvest. And after all, isn't joy just as important as vegetables anyway? So I realized that my family got a great harvest from our rock garden every year. And rock gardens take zero maintenance. After a lifetime of searching for the meaning of gardening, I realized that gardening is well beyond the sport or the hobby. Gardening is a philosophy. Like so much in life, gardening boils down to our attitude. So, if I look at my beautiful collection of rocks and gems and minerals and see a garden, then that is what it is.